You did not lose a relationship. You completed a cycle that was designed from the very first conversation to end exactly where it did. There are 3 stages to what happened to you, and once you can see the map, the confusion stops. This briefing gives you that map. Welcome to the Shadow Protocol, where we take the hidden architecture of manipulation apart, piece by piece, and hand you the tools to defend your mind. If you have ever walked away from a relationship more confused than when you entered it, you are in exactly the right place. In this analysis, we map the 3 stages of narcissistic abuse: idealization, devaluation, and discard in order. You will see the precise job each stage performs, why the 2 middle stages are the ones that keep people trapped, and how to locate yourself on that map, no matter which stage you are standing in right now. This analysis draws strictly from established clinical literature on coercive control and narcissistic personality research, including the foundational object relations work that first described the idealization and devaluation pattern. We are not here to diagnose anyone from a distance. We are here to hand you a diagnostic lens for your own experience. But there is one more thing this briefing will give you: the answer to why the ending felt so much worse than an ordinary breakup. Because the confusion you feel is not a sign that something is wrong with you. The confusion is the product. It was manufactured. Let us take it apart. To read the map, you need one idea, and it changes everything that follows. A manipulator of this kind is not pursuing a relationship in the way you understand the word. They are managing a resource. Clinical writing has a name for that resource: narcissistic supply, the steady stream of attention, admiration, reaction, and control that regulates how the manipulator feels about themselves. Supply is the point. You were the source. Foundational object relations work described the mechanism underneath this pattern as splitting, the inability to hold a single, integrated image of another person. In this framework, a partner cannot be an ordinary human being with strengths and flaws held together at once. They are either wholly idealized or wholly devalued, and the manipulator swings between the 2 extremes. That swing is not moodiness. It is the engine of the entire cycle. So picture 3 points on one loop: acquisition, depletion, disposal. The manipulator acquires a supply source, drains it, and disposes of it. Idealize, devalue, discard. Same loop, 3 names. Once the loop is visible, every confusing thing that happened to you snaps into a position on it. If this is already describing something you have lived, subscribe to the Shadow Protocol and hit like. New clinical analysis every week. Now let us walk the loop 1 stage at a time. Start with the single most important correction, because it is the one that ends the self-blame. You did not have a relationship that went wrong. You were moved through a process that went exactly right. When a relationship between 2 ordinary people ends, it ends for a reason that lives in the present. People grow apart. Circumstances change. Trust breaks and is not repaired. The ending is connected to the events that came before it. This is different. In this pattern, the ending was structurally available from the very beginning because the relationship was never built to last. It was built to extract. The warmth at the start and the coldness at the end are not contradictions. They are 2 settings on the same machine, and the machine was always going to cycle through both. That is why the standard questions torture you. What did I do wrong? When did it change? If I had only done one thing differently, would they have stayed? Those questions all assume the ending was caused by something inside the relationship. It was not. It was caused by the depletion of supply. And depletion was inevitable because no human being can be an infinite source of another person's self-regulation. Hold on this for a moment, because everything else depends on it. The 3 stages are not 3 separate events that happen to fall in an unlucky order. They are one continuous extraction cycle: acquisition, depletion, disposal. Let us define each one precisely. Phase 1 is idealization, and at the structural level, it has exactly one job: to build a bond strong enough to extract from later. Notice that we are looking at the architecture of this phase, not its surface tactics. The specific opening moves, the flattery, the speed, the flooding of attention, have their own dedicated briefing. Here we are looking at what idealization builds, not how it is performed. And what it builds is dependency, dressed as intimacy. In the idealization phase, you were not met. You were mirrored. The manipulator studied what you valued, what you had been missing, the exact shape of the partner you had always wanted, and then reflected it back to you. You did not fall for a person. You fell for a mirror of your own best self, held up at a flattering angle. Two structures get installed in this phase, and both of them are load-bearing for the abuse that follows. The first is identity merging. The boundary between you and the manipulator is deliberately dissolved. Your time, your friendships, your routines, your sense of where you end and they begin, all of it is folded into the relationship at high speed. It feels like extraordinary closeness. Structurally, it is the removal of everything you could later use to stabilize yourself on your own. The second is the us against the world frame. The relationship is positioned as a rare and special thing that outsiders cannot understand and may try to threaten. This feels deeply romantic. Its function is to isolate you in advance from the very people who would later notice the change and tell you the truth. So by the end of phase 1, the manipulator has not really won your love. They have engineered your dependency. The supply source is acquired. The bond is strong enough to extract from. The machine moves to its next setting. Subscribe to the Shadow Protocol and hit like to help this analysis reach someone who needs the map. We publish structured, clinical breakdowns every week. Now the stage almost everyone misreads. Phase 2 is devaluation. And here is where nearly everyone reads the situation wrong in a way that can keep them trapped for years. The intuitive reading then is that the person changed. The mask slipped. The real them finally came out. That reading feels true, and it is almost completely backward. Nothing about the manipulator changed. What changed was the management of supply. In the idealization phase, approval flowed freely because flooding you with approval is what acquired you. In the devaluation phase, that same approval is deliberately rationed because scarcity is what deepens dependency. This is a supply management shift, not a personality change. Let us give the central mechanic a name: supply compression. And to be precise, that is a behavioral label this channel uses to describe a pattern, not a clinical diagnosis. Supply compression is a deliberate narrowing of approval, warmth, and stability so that the small amounts that remain become things you work harder and harder to earn. A clinician who spent more than 15 years working directly with abusive men in a treatment program observed that this kind of escalating control is not a loss of control at all. It is strategic. The unpredictability has a direction, and the direction is your compliance. Watch what supply compression does to you from the inside. Your world quietly shrinks. You begin pre-editing yourself, screening your own words and choices for anything that might trigger the cold, withdrawn version of your partner. Clinicians describe this as cognitive shrinkage, the gradual narrowing of your mental world down to the single task of managing another person's reactions. You start walking on eggshells, and you never quite catch the moment it started, because the floor was lowered 1 degree at a time. And here's the line I want you to sit with, because it is the recognition that breaks people open when they finally see it. If you have been exhausting yourself trying to get back to how things were at the beginning, you are not failing to fix the relationship. You are performing exactly the labor that the devaluation phase was designed to extract. The beginning was the bait. Chasing it is the trap. One thing this phase is, and that we will not unpack here, is chemically addictive, because the good moments do still return, just unpredictably. That occasional unpredictable return has its own engine and its own briefing. For the map, what matters is this: devaluation is not the relationship breaking down. It is the relationship working as designed. Before we reach the third stage, you need to understand why it does not behave like an ending at all. The discard is the most misread stage of the three because it wears the costume of a breakup while performing the opposite function. Most people brace for grief. What actually rarely arrives is something colder and more deliberate. And if you cannot see its structure, it can take years off your recovery. Pay close attention to this one. Phase 3 is the discard. And the discard is not the manipulator giving up on the relationship. It is the manipulator making one final move to control it. Remember the frame. This was never about partnership. It was about supply. So the discard happens for one of two reasons. Either the supply has been depleted past the point of usefulness. You are too exhausted, too wary, too worn down to give the reaction the manipulator feeds on, or a fresher source has already been secured. Very often, both at once. That second part is what makes the discard feel so inhuman. In a great many cases, the replacement supply was lined up before you were ever let go. The manipulator does not tolerate a gap in supply, so the next source is frequently cultivated while you are still being devalued, which is why the exit can look so abrupt and so unfeeling. There was no grieving period for them, because for them there was no loss. There was a handoff. Now look at the complete map. Acquisition, depletion, disposal, idealize, devalue, discard. Every confusing moment you lived has a position on this loop. There is one more move to name because it inverts everything you would expect. Sometimes the discard does not wait for the manipulator to be ready. Sometimes it accelerates the instant you begin to detach. Call it preemptive discard. Again, a behavioral label, not a diagnosis. When the target starts to disengage, starts to recover their own perspective, starts to become a less reliable source, the manipulator will often move to discard first, hard and fast, in order to be the one who ends it. Because to a person running this cycle, being left is an unbearable loss of control. Discarding first restores it, and that is the answer to the question that haunts the end of these relationships. Why did it hit so much harder than an ordinary breakup? Not because you were weak. Structurally, you were not grieving one loss. You were absorbing three things at once. The loss of the relationship itself, the demolition of the idealized version of you that you were shown at the start, and the discovery that the entire arc was a process you were moved through. That is three injuries wearing the mask of one. No wonder it did not behave like ordinary grief. What comes after the discard, the recontact, the attempt to pull a discarded source back when a newer one runs dry, is its own stage with its own defense, and it has its own briefing. For now, the loop is complete. The map is complete. Now here is how you use it. Recognition without a tool is just a sharper kind of pain. So this is the tool. We call it the Arc Audit, and it has 4 steps. It works whether you are still inside the cycle or standing in the wreckage after it. Step 1. Locate. Find your position on the 3 phases using observable behavior, not attributed intent. Do not try to read the manipulator's mind or decode what they really feel. Ask only what is observably happening. Is approval flowing freely, or is it being rationed? Has a replacement appeared? Behavior is data. Intent is a guess, and guessing is the maze they want you lost inside. Step 2. Name the phase without pathologizing the person. This is a discipline, and it protects you twice. Say to yourself, this is a devaluation pattern, not they are a narcissist. Naming the pattern gives you clarity and a next action. Diagnosing the person pulls you straight back into their psychology, which is exactly where you lose. You are not here to label them. You are here to locate yourself. Step 3. Apply psychological sovereignty. That is this channel's term for the restored capacity to define your own reality and govern your own choices, independent of the manipulator's narrative. How you apply it depends on where you are on the map. If you are mid-cycle, still inside it, sovereignty looks like enforcing consequences and holding a boundary against the pressure, and that has its own complete framework. If you are post-discard, sovereignty looks like protecting your recovery from recontact through deliberate structural distance, what we call low contact or no contact, and that too has its own framework. Locate first, then apply the right tool for your position. Step 4. Run the repeat check. This is the step that turns pain into protection. Look back across your relationships calmly without self-attack. If you can see the same arc shape, the same idealize, devalue, discard loop, appearing more than once, you have not found proof that you are broken. You have found a targeting pattern. Manipulators select for specific traits, often the most empathetic loyal, and self-doubting people in the room, precisely because those traits make for a richer and more patient supply source. Seeing the repeat is not a verdict against you. It is the information you need to refine what you let close to you next. So carry three things out of this briefing. First, it was a cycle, not a relationship. Acquisition, depletion, disposal. The ending was built in from the beginning, which means the ending was never your fault. Second, the two stages people misread are the ones that keep them trapped. Devaluation is not the mask slipping. It is supply being compressed. And the discard is not grief. It is a final control move, often with the next source already in place. Third, you now have the map and the Arc Audit to read it. Locate yourself. Name the pattern, not the person. Apply sovereignty for your position. Run the repeat check. The confusion was never a flaw in you. It was the product the cycle was built to manufacture. And a product you can see, name, and locate on a map is a product that has lost its power over you. If you want the opening of the cycle in full detail, the specific signs of the idealization phase as it is happening, watch the analysis on love bombing on the left. And if you want the engine that makes the devaluation phase so addictive, the reward schedule underneath it, watch the breakdown of intermittent reinforcement. On the right, locate yourself on the map, name the pattern, protect your reality. We will see you in the next analysis.